Okay, guys, let's start off in the world of sports today.
Yeah.
Not a lot going on. Of course, the big news is the Sweet 16 in men's and women's basketball. Not a whole lot of newness in the women's. UConn was playing Baylor earlier. I don't know if that's still going on or not. I think UConn might have wrapped that up, but I'll have to check and see. But the fascinating thing going on in men's basketball, and I can't remember last time this happened. I have to check the record. In the Sweet 16, no Kansas, no Duke, no North
Yeah.
Carolina, and no Kentucky.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know if that's ever been.
That's crazy to think.
It really is. And it's just trying to get a finger on it. You don't know if this is after effects of the pandemic or what's going on because sports is so topsy turvy right now. But it's like a changing of the guards going on in college basketball. So
Now,
So-
just
go ahead.
quick here, if you don't mind. So, college basketball in general. Do you? I agree with you. It's been several years probably since you haven't seen those major schools get in there. So, in a way, it's kind of cool because you get
yeah,
some of these
and no
other
not Gonzaga, but Villanova. They lost as well. Yeah.
yeah. So, but certainly there's a factor too of the pandemic, and certainly the rules of college game where you have to do the one and done
One and done, right?
to get to the pros unless you have enough talent to get out of high school, which is very, very few and far
Right.
between. Does that in itself diminish the college game as far as, or do you prefer to see have these kids go for a couple years at least, learn the game more and make it more of a requirement to get to the pros, or yeah. Any thoughts
Wow,
on that?
that's a really, really great question.
Think about that. We'll come back. We'll
I-
talk about that. Talk about that
okay.
more if you want to. But unless you have an answer now, we can totally
Yeah,
come
I
back
do
to it.
actually. I really
Go
was
ahead.
upset about that at first. I thought it was destroying the college game. I
Mhm.
thought too many guys were coming into pros and didn't have fundamental skills. Yeah,
Mhm.
they could dunk or shoot the three or something, but didn't have the ball handling skills, passing skills, things like that. And I still think that in a lot of ways. Um, but I think the college game has changed and adapted to it now. I still don't like the fact of seeing this great guy. I like to see the kid come back and the create dynasties. I like things like that.
Yeah.
You're there for 3 or 4 years, you win the championship 3 or 4 years, and leave this great legacy. That stuff's gone now. So I
Oh yeah.
still miss it, but I think the college game has adapted to it.
Well, fair enough. All right. What else you got? Sorry, just curious.
Oh,
What you
that's okay.
thought.
That was a great question. All right. Also, following the Deshaun Watson debacle. So today he tweeted, he deleted all of his Instagram and tweet, all this other stuff. And the news is he is automatically settling some of these allegations quickly and swiftly out of court. This reminded me of, we mentioned the OJ trial earlier. I'll never forget a young girl, I think it was my stepdaughter at the time, was so confused, and she went, "Daddy, if he was guilty in the other trial, how was he? I mean, if he was innocent in the other trial, how was he guilty in this one?" And that
Hmm.
was just from the mind of a child. I could understand her confusion. Does My question to you: does being found guilty or settling in a civil suit, in your mind, does that automatically mean guilt and the criminal charges?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
I've always thought that. You know, back when I was younger, I was still in college during the OJ trials. My first thought is okay, he was found innocent of the criminal charges.
Hmm.
How the heck is he being found guilty on the civil charges?
Okay.
And I
And
never
one of the
could
reasons
understand that.
one of the reasons is the preponderance of evidence is different in a civil suit. Okay.
Right.
You have to have without a doubt in a murder trial, without a reasonable doubt. And in a
Right.
civil suit, it's a lot less.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it. So, yeah, I think when you're trying to do, especially when you hear hush hush money and settling out of court and all that stuff, my first thought, and probably a lot of people feel that same way, is okay, what are you hiding? Is my first thought. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, Fish.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily it means he's guilty on the criminal charges. I think you certainly weigh your options I mean, there's certainly something to say, well, if he's innocent, he should fight for that and this and that. You're also talking about a heck of a lot more time and money and effort, and it's going to be very prevalent in the news for a long period of time. It's going to hurt his career potentially a lot worse, even if he wins, just how long it's going to be in the news. I think with this, he settles out of court. It's not necessarily an admittance of guilt, and then you quickly move past it. And in this day and age, we will forget about it probably in a few months because there's so many other topics and things floating around out there, and probably what he's banking on as well. So,
okay,
that's just my opinion.
Okay, now taking Deshaun Watson out of it, I'm just saying in general, I don't think it necessarily means guilt. I think a lot of people are weighing their options. Like you take a car company and they find out that there's a default in the brakes. They have what they call bean counters, weigh the possible lawsuits versus having a recall. Now, it's a shame they put people's lives in their hand like that, but this is what they do. Is it going to be more cost efficient to recall this or the number of lawsuits that we might possibly have to deal with? And sometimes these rich celebrities, you know, when you get accused of sexual assault, even if you're innocent later, the stigma is still on you. People look at you funny, still bring it up every time. They attach it to your name all the time. You can't Google a person's name without it not being attached there. So sometimes they just want to settle and get this over with, whether they're innocent or not. Now, with Deshaun Watson, listen, with the number of claims going against this guy, something's up, okay? When it starts to look like a duck, quacks like a duck, sometimes usually a duck. So I don't know for sure, but it's not looking good for this guy. And I hope he gets it together. All right, so moving on to music. Not a lot going on, guys, but this day in music, very important. In 1975, certainly one of the most important groups in rock and roll, something that has never been done. Led Zeppelin had all 6 of their albums in the U.S. Top 100.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was an astonishing feat right there. Zeppelin was huge during their time. Songs are still standing the test of time today. Usually most of your classic rock stations still do the greatest song of all time. Stairway to Heaven ends up, number 1 or number 2, depending where you listen. Huge impact. How was Led Zeppelin impacting your life there, Fish?
Well, just around here, they were on the radio forever growing up, so you definitely had exposure to them. And to me, it's one of the most musically talented groups that ever existed, all the way around. From singer to the drummer, everybody was certainly hugely talented in his right. So you may not see that again.
I just gave drum lesson tonight. I have a 60-year-old female student, and the lesson tonight was Bonham triplets. So it's funny that this came up. Skinner?
Yeah, I agree with Fish. They are one of those bands, here in Northeast Ohio, you had MMS, you had Rock 107, you had 97.5, you had 98.5. All of them were playing Zeppelin up until very recently. Even in some of the stations, if you're listening to terrestrial radio, they're still on there. They're a huge influence on a lot of bands.
Yes.
I know Metallica, my personal favorite band of all time, takes tribute to them and says that was one of their idols growing up, or why they got into the music industry was because of Led Zeppelin.
Sure. Yeah.
So, they are those. When you think of rock and roll, heavy metal, they're one of the first couple bands that come to mind has to be Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. When it comes to talent, all the way through, the bass player, unbelievable. Robert Plant had the voice. I thought Jimmy Page was a genius. And oh my God, John Bonham. Where does this redneck white boy get so funky? One of the most syncopated, heavy foot, 28-inch bass, one of the coolest, greatest drummers of all time. He did more with one pedal than a lot of drummers can do with 2. His triplets are legendary. He was just something to behold in the songs that they wrote. Just go on and on and on and on and on. When I hear people talk about Beatles being the greatest of all time, I think of bands like Led Zeppelin, Earth, Wind, and Fire that blew them out the water, in my opinion. So they were just huge. And lastly, not least, and there's another coincidence because I was talking about this with one of my students today. In 1986, this is a great Gen Xer here, the song Rock Me Amadeus debuted with Falco. And
Wow.
Falco.
I was going over classical music with one of my students today. He's 12, and I said it was about Mozart, and I said, "Have you heard? You know who Amadeus is?" And he goes, "Wasn't that a song?" I'm like, no, you moron! He's a composer, but okay, yeah, it was a song too. Uh, the song was huge. Originally sung, I think it was a German or French. I can't recall. German, yeah.
German. Yeah.
And Falco was huge for about 2 years. Of course, he did the song Jenny, which I love that song.
Yeah, he did.
It was very, very controversial, the video. And it was all downhill after that because it's about murder and what else going on. But Rock Me Amadeus, best you remember that song.
Oh yeah, that's an all-decade song. If you have an all-'80s hits, that's going to be on that playlist for sure.
Yes.
So yeah, absolutely.
It just grew. Skinner?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm a subscriber to XM Radio, and back when I was driving from Akron to Medina, which to those that don't know the area, it's about a 26-mile stretch. So I listened to a lot of radio, and there'll be a lot of times that I'll turn it over to an 80s channel or 80s on 8, and Rock Me Amadeus would come on first thing in the morning.
It just can't help but
you can't help but to put you into a good mood.
Yeah,
it's just one of those songs.
Yeah, it's one of those things you like to repeat. Absolutely.
You got those people saying, "What's that white boy doing? Just banging, thumping in that little car of his." But that's just one of those feel-good songs.
Okay. Well,
you sound so old.
Yes,
we do. Sound so old, don't we? Saying that. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I just want to say something here. I am proud that I'm tight in my small intestine area. Okay? I just want to say that. Okay? I'm going to put that out there while you guys are making jokes. So,
Oh, you've opened the floodgates that will not be closed for a while.
I'm going to get cleansed herbally, and I'm going to let you guys know how that goes.
Yes, so we're very interested.
We are interested in that.
Yeah.
I think on that note, we should call it a day.
I think so. This show's gone downhill, man.
All right, fellas, for our esteemed co-host that couldn't make it today, John Cooper, Brian Fisher, and Keith Porter. I am Michael Skinner. Thanks for listening to us here at It Came From GenX, and we bid you farewell and talk to you next week.
Have a good week, everybody. Go to church. Get some churching.
Yeah, go to church and go to our Facebook page. It Came From GenX, all one word. All show information there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
From GenX.
WMBU.org.
Take care, folks.
Okay.